The soft hum of the pizza oven and the clinking of cutlery against porcelain plates always marked the onset of another bustling evening at Pizza Pizza. For the locals in our small, sleepy town, it was the epitome of fine dining. The crimson velvet curtains, the crystal chandeliers, and the faint scent of aged wood combined to create an ambiance that whispered sophistication. And for someone like me, a server at this prestigious establishment, every night was a dance of perfection and precision. My name is Lily, and I had been working at Pizza Pizza for the past 2 years. Nestled on the outskirts of town, it was the type of place where people celebrated anniversaries, marriage proposals, and other significant milestones. However, beneath the veneer of elegance, there lurked an air of unease. It all began with the owner, Mr. DeLucca. He was a tall, stooped man with a face etched with lines of worry. He rarely ventured out of his office, but when he did, it was to utter a single phrase that sent shivers down our spines. "The secret ingredient," he'd mutter, his eyes averted, his voice trembling, "is what sets us apart." None of us knew what he meant by the secret ingredient, and no one dared ask. All we knew was that it was the foundation of our signature pizzas, and the reason why people from all around flocked to our restaurant. One fateful evening, as twilight painted the sky with shades of orange and pink, I found myself assigned to a table in the dimly lit corner of the restaurant. The table was for a party of 5, an odd number considering we usually had even-numbered guests. My heart sank when I saw them. The group consisted of 4 women and 1 man, their faces etched with lines of sadness and despair. I smiled politely as I took their drink orders, trying to ease their discomfort. It was only when I turned away to fetch their drinks that I overheard their hushed conversation. "I can't believe we're doing this," one of the women whispered, her voice trembling. "We have no choice." Voice. The man replies, eyes darting around the restaurant as if expecting someone to eavesdrop. As the evening wore on, I couldn't help but watch them from a distance. Their hushed tones and furtive glances added an eerie layer to the already unsettling ambience of Pizza Pizza. It was as if they were conspiring in some dark ritual, and the thought sent a shiver down my spine. When I returned to their table with their entrees, I noticed that they had barely touched their food. The woman who had spoken earlier looked up at me with haunted eyes. "Can we speak to the owner?" she asked. I nodded, feeling a growing sense of unease. I hadn't seen Mr. DeLucca in weeks, but I knew where to find him. With a forced smile, I excused myself and headed to his office at the back of the restaurant. The door to Mr. DeLucca's office was heavy and imposing. I knocked softly, my heart pounding in my chest. "Mr. DeLucca," I called out. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with shadows and the faint scent of something foul. Mr. DeLucca sat behind his desk, his back hunched over a ledger. He looked up, his eyes bloodshot and weary. "What is it, Lily?" he rasped. "There's a group of customers who want to speak with you," I said, my voice trembling. "They seem troubled." Mr. DeLucca's eyes narrowed, and he let out a deep sigh. "Very well, send them in." I returned to the group's table and relayed Mr. DeLucca's message. They rose from their seats, their faces a strange mix of relief and dread. As they entered Mr. DeLucca's office, I couldn't help but wonder what secrets lay within those walls. I waited outside the office, straining to hear their conversation. The murmurs were too faint to decipher, but I could sense the tension in the air. Minutes turned into hours as I stood there, my unease growing with each passing moment. Finally, the door swung open and the group emerged. Their faces were pale, their eyes haunted. They didn't speak as they made their way to the exit, leaving me with a feeling of dread that settled deep in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had just transpired, something connected to the mysterious secret ingredient that Mr. DeLucca always spoke of. My curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to confront him. I knocked on his office door once more, my voice trembling. "Mr. DeLucca, can I speak with you?" He looked up from his ledger, his expression a mix of weariness and resignation. "What is it now, Lily?" I took a deep breath, my words tumbling out in a rush. "What is the secret ingredient? What's going on here?" Mr. DeLucca stared at me for a long moment, his eyes devoid of any emotion. Then, slowly, he rose from his desk and beckoned me closer. "Come here, Lily," he whispered, his voice filled with a haunting intensity. I approached cautiously, and he leaned in closer, his breath cold against my ear. "The secret ingredient," he hissed, "is fear." I recoiled in horror, my mind struggling to comprehend his words. "Fear? What do you mean?" Mr. DeLucca's eyes bore into mine, and in that moment, I saw a darkness, a malevolence that sent a shiver down my spine. "We make our pizzas with fear. The fear of those who dine here, the fear of those who seek our services. It's what gives our food its unique flavor, its unparalleled taste." I stumbled back, my mind reeling. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You can't be serious." He smiled, a chilling, twisted smile that made my blood run cold. "Oh, but I am. You see, fear is the most potent spice of all, and it's the key to our success. People come here not just for the food, but for the experience, for the thrill of being consumed by their own fears." I turned and fled from his office, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't stay at Pizza any longer, not with the knowledge of what went on behind the scenes. As I rushed out of the restaurant, I could feel Mr. DeLucca's malevolent gaze on my back, as if he knew that I knew. The days turned into weeks, and I tried to put Pizza behind me, but the memories of that night haunted my dreams. I couldn't escape the feeling of impending doom that clung to me like a shadow. Then, one evening, as I walked down a quiet street, I saw a familiar face. It was one of the women from that fateful group who had spoken to Mr. DeLucca. She looked even more haggard and desperate than before. "Please," she begged, clutching my arm with trembling hands. "You have to help us. We made a terrible mistake." I could see the fear in her eyes, the same fear that Mr. DeLucca had spoken of. And in that moment, I knew that I couldn't run from my past. I had to confront the darkness that lurked within Pizza and put an end to it once and for all. As we stood outside the restaurant, I could hear the soft hum of the pizza oven and the clinking of cutlery against porcelain plates, the sounds of an ordinary evening at Pizza. But I knew that beneath the veneer of elegance, something far more sinister awaited. And with a deep breath, I pushed open the restaurant's heavy doors, ready to face the horrors that lay within.